What's up, everybody? Jake Blickenstaff here. I'm a realtor and an associate broker with Virtual Properties Realty here in the state of Georgia, also licensed in South Carolina as well. Now, this video that I'm making is 100% my own opinion. I don't share beliefs, or I'm not speaking on behalf of my brokerage, my local MLS board here in Athens. I'm not speaking on behalf of the Georgia Realtors or the National Association of Realtors. But I do want to provide my opinion on a lot of the misinformation that's surrounding what's going on with this National Association Realtor lawsuit settlement that just happened last week. So today is March 19th, 2024. And to give you a little bit of background on myself, I've been in the industry for about 6 years now. I've been a broker for about 2 years and national sales trainer and speaker and coach for about the last 2 years as well, for probably say a couple hundred, if not a couple thousand students over the years of doing that. Also run a team. So I'm heavily involved in both the residential and commercial side of real estate. And so I think that it's important to not only set the record straight a little bit, but also to kind of calm the narrative with everything that has happened with this lawsuit. So if you're unaware of the exact details, the lawsuit basically came down to they reached an agreement to resolve claims that were related to broker commissions brought on by home sellers. And so the agreement involves over 1 million NAR members all across the nation, along with local realtor associations, MLSs, and brokerages with a specific transaction volume. I want to say that that number is like 2 billion or above. I could be incorrect with that, but I believe I've read that about 2 billion or higher. So up to this point, NAR has denied that there was any wrongdoing. And let me state for the record, and since I've been in the industry, commissions are negotiable. They are now, and they always have been. So to think that the result of this was that there was price fixing, I'm sure that just like in any industry, there's bad actors and there's individuals that are not capable of doing their job or their duty, or just because they have an ethical responsibility or a fiduciary responsibility to a client. There's always individuals that wind up breaking that. That's going to happen in any industry across the board. I could name numerous examples, but I'm not going to throw anybody else under the bus. But for the most part, there's, I want to say 1.3 million realtors across the nation as of last year. And out of that, there were, I think, over 50% of those individuals did a transaction or less last year. So what does that say? There's a large portion of our industry that is not doing a lot of work, but let's also think about the cost of entry to get into this industry. I mean, you can take your test and pay for all your licensing and be attached to a board and basically be in business for yourself for roughly under probably $2,000 or $3,000. There's not a lot of other businesses out there that allow you to do that. And if you have the drive and the desire, you can be extremely successful in this business. So I think that is a huge part of, in my opinion, still this American dream that we're trying to hold on to, with having the ability to kind of do what you want within the realm of ethics and laws and all that kind of stuff. But to go back into this, so the NAR has denied that there was any price fixing when it comes to the commissions. The settlement, they agreed to pay $418 million over 4 years. And so that's going to be subject to court approval and any of the claims that had come in there. Now, the funny part about this is that the first people that get compensated out of that are going to be the attorneys. And then whatever's left out of that, then that goes to all of the defendants in the case. So I think if more than anything, this is just a big money grab, because to think that people don't have the ability to buy properties by themselves or without representation is ludicrous, because in the past you could go on numerous sites for sale by owner and either attempt to sell your property by yourself, or you could buy a property by yourself. But I look at it as the same way as Can you change the oil in your vehicle if you want to? Yeah, absolutely. Or if you don't want to, you can go to a professional and have them do it. And then on the opposite side of that, or the opposite end of that spectrum, can you represent yourself in court? Yeah, absolutely. Is it advisable? Usually not. So the majority of individuals, probably across this nation, especially for home buying or home selling, for one, I have seen this process become an absolute nightmare. And so having a trusted advocate or advisor that's on your side to help steer you after having done tens or hundreds of transactions and seeing things come up over and over again, to be able to say, hey, this isn't that big of a deal. This would be the way that we resolve this, or this is how we negotiate to get you the best price, depending on which side of the table you're on. I definitely think that there's still a benefit, and that there always will be, for us as realtors in this industry. Now, once again, are people capable of going out and buying or selling real estate without representation? Absolutely. But in my opinion, to think that by having this lawsuit go into effect, that all of a sudden both buyers and sellers are going to save money, you can't save money on both sides of the transaction, because sellers will always attempt to get the most value for their property. And just because a real estate agent is not involved in the transaction doesn't mean that that property now costs less. Property values are property values, whether or not real estate agents are involved in the process or not. That's what a lot of people just don't understand through this. Uh, so the choice to have representation going forward is still going to be there. Now, the way that I look at commissions when it comes to my business is that I will have a consultation with a client, whether it's a buyer or a seller, and I will let them know that, hey, based on what you're trying to accomplish, this is what I would charge. Now, if they say, hey, I don't want to pay that, that's fine. Then we can shake hands and be friends and agree and go opposite directions, because I know what the value of my time is worth. And just because I won't move forward with the transaction doesn't mean that there's not somebody else. But it's no different than if somebody was had a less time in the industry than somebody else, or a larger corporation. Their prices could technically be cheaper because they don't have a lot of value to potentially bring to the table. But what's going to be difficult, in my opinion, and could hurt the average consumer the most, is that even if you have somebody that has been just licensed as of last week, or they've been in the business for 40 years and they haven't really done much, there's a realtor out there on every end of the spectrum for somebody else. We all have friends, we all have family, we all have neighbors. And one of the benefits of this is that you can have some, like, everybody has different flavors and different people that they're going to know, like, and trust better than the other. So if there are people that are going to be forced out of the industry, or they're not capable of moving forward with this business, then unfortunately the standard consumer is going to be hurt the worst through this process, because now they're going to lose their trusted advocate on who they could potentially use to buy or sell real estate. So I foresee that we're going to have a drop in the industry of active realtors moving forward. And I think, if anything, the ones that stick around, we're going to adapt, and there's no doubt about that. But once again, let me just preface this, that commissions are now and always have been negotiable. Now, if you work with somebody and they're not willing to negotiate, then you get to decide what you want to do. But you also need to look at the track record of the individual that you're talking about. If they have a successful track record of being able to sell properties, or have an extremely good value proposition on the front end to help you buy it, then it will probably be worth it. Or you can spend a couple hours to a couple months going down the rabbit hole of learning everything that you need to learn to potentially transact a property on your own. And then that liability and onus is 100% on you. But I think moving forward, some of the other changes that we're going to wind up seeing from this, or that I know that we're going to wind up seeing, is there will be no longer any shared compensation publicly on the MLS. So you'll have a property listed on there, and no longer will buyers agents be able to go in there and see what an offer of compensation will be on there. You'd have to manually speak to them. So there's still going to be opportunities to negotiate off of the MLS for this. Buyers, you will if you do decide to work with an agent, you will have to have a buyer brokerage agreement signed and in place. And during that process, a good agent should explain their value proposition and why they are worth what they are. And if there's not any compensation being paid for by the seller, then that would fall on you. And once again, I think the average consumer is going to be hurt the most by this, because some individuals are already strapped to be able to come up with their down payment, especially in the higher interest rate environment that we currently are in. And if they have to come out of pocket additionally to be able to pay for their own representation to be able to purchase a house, it's just going to put them further back on the timeline to be able to chase that American dream of home ownership. So after all things are said and done, I think that the average consumer is going to be hurt by this the worst, unfortunately. But if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I operate here in Georgia and South Carolina, and happy to help answer any questions, residential, commercial side. But once again, Jake Blickett staff, and we'll see you guys later.